Right, what do we have today? We have the rear lower suspension arm on the right hand side of a Discovery 3 2007. That's being repaired by the Dialysis Mechanic, which I am currently in my weakened state. So let's see how it goes. As you can see, I've got the nuts and bolts laid out. It's not very many. We've got the rose joint on the right hand side. We've got the suspension strut that goes here, and then the two rear bushes at the back. Now, one thing particularly to make a note of is this lovely fixing, which is a captured nut. This is quite thin bracket, so I can imagine on the one that's on there, it's relatively weak in terms of it being on there for a long time. And on the other side, which I did, which I've not filmed, it was a right pain in the bum to remove because I did it wrong. And what happened was that as I tried to undo the very stiff bolt, it kind of it pushes this out and it moves around. It's very thin and it kind of snapped apart. I was going to see if I can use the technique that I used to put the new one back in on the other side, which I'll show you later whether that helps to get this out this time. It's very hard to get them out because the nuts are obviously the bolts are obviously slightly corroded. And then what I did stupidly was on this bolt I cut the end off, this end, because I thought you'd be able to push it through, but there isn't enough access to push it through. So that meant I then had to grind the nut off of the other end, and it just took me ages and ages and ages, and it was a right faff. So this time, hopefully, having learnt my lesson, we will make it it will be easier to do this time. So there you go, let's have a go at doing it. Right, so what do we have now that we're here? Okay, the top arm I replaced a few years ago. That's still doing fine. So we've got that large rear mounting there. We've actually got an anti-roll bar link there. That's got to come off as well. It's nice and rusty. We've got the shock absorber here, and we've got the rose joint down here. The other thing that is useful to take off is the this, which is the suspension link that goes up the back, and then we've got this, the most difficult bit, which is the rear bolt on that bush there, and that one has got the captured nut at the back, which is, it's already awkward, and you've got the exhaust pipe in the way as well. So getting this dropped does help and gives you extra access, and it also allows you to wiggle around the hub carrier as well. So that's where we're going to go. Obviously I'm doing this with the rest of the suspension assembled, so it probably does make it harder, but we'll see how we get on. Impact driver, impact gun is actually very useful for this kind of stuff because the nuts are all very rusty and seized, and it does help. The access is better on, this is the right hand side of a UK vehicle, so the access is better here because you can see there's nothing in the way, so you can get, probably I can get my impact gun on that, so from underneath. So actually in this case that might be easier to take off. Last time I had to do it with two spanners on the other side, but the one at the back is the one that we're really going to focus, I'm going to focus most of my energy on, so that comes out as easily as possible. The rest of them are all pretty straightforward, other than just the general static corrosion, which is going to be on a vehicle of this age. So let's see how we get on. Right. One off. So the tie bar's got a 18mm nut on it, and you can hold the end, I think it is with 8 or 9. It's 9, let's see, 8. So that is 8mm on the end where you can hold it steady as you try and undo it. The one on the other side that I undid of these was actually really difficult to undo, so I had to apply a little bit of heat to that one. We'll see how we get on with this one. As you can see, using the impact gun on the other side, the bolts are 21mm head and the nuts are 24, so using the impact gun, last time I didn't use the impact gun properly, and like I said, it was just a much harder job. This time, using the impact gun, I've got 1, 2, 3 of the main bolts already undone, and the nuts are off, and then I've got to sort out this link. The other weird thing under here as well is the handbrake cable clip. I've got my which this needs to come off. Last time the bolt on there was completely rusted out, so I had to grind it off with a Dremel. Another one. That's harder work than it looks. Well, that's harder work than it seems. I don't know why it's so hard, but there you go. So what I did last time when I was reassembling the other side is that this goes into the frame at the back, and then in order to stop it from spinning round, I put a screwdriver through, and that just holds it really tightly in place. I'm not sure whether that's the correct thing to do or not. I'm going to see whether I can just pop a screwdriver through to the existing one, and that will stop it from twisting around as much and should make removal of the bolt a little bit easier this time. See if I can find it. So it is in there. So that it's just wedged in there. It's quite hard to see, isn't it? Which is where that loop comes through on the chassis. So I'm hoping that will make my disassembly a little bit easier. Right, so that's done it again. That is not holding the nut as we try and undo it. So they're holding the, yeah, it's not holding the nut. So despite chopping it here, stopping it from wiggling around, it just spinning. Here it's spinning around. So you have to get underneath and get a 24mm spanner on the other side. In an attempt to stop it from moving. This is where I got stuck last time. So I'll hopefully not repeat the mistakes of last time by this time getting this chopped on properly and or getting the spanner on it correctly and stopping it from spinning around so that we can actually get it off from this side. You can unhook the exhaust, which gives you a little bit of movement, not much. The exhaust is pretty tough. And like I said, this stabilizer arm is going to come undone at the bottom, just so that it can move around, so that we can get a bit more access when it's time to take the arm off, because it allows you to wiggle it so that the bushes drop out from the rear. Right, I've had a rethink. I've taken out the spare wheel and this cover, splash guard that's at the back of that. So that comes out from up here with a couple of very rusty nuts. And that is now the rear bolt on there. And if I can get underneath, these arrow fending. These arrow fending, difficult to get to rear bolt, as you can see. It's all a bit, if I can get it to focus. Will that focus on that? That is nice and rusty, so that's why it's stiff and hard to get off. This is the one that gave me the most grief last time, and it's given me the most grief this time. The problem is this, the bit around it that is supposed to hold it tight, which it works fine when you're doing it up. Just when you're undoing it, it can't cope with the, you know, the rust on the bolt holding it, and it just spins around in that, and doesn't really help you get a spanner on it. So it's a bit of a pain, but there you go. Right, I'll try and continue. I'm going to see if I can. You can drop. Well, there we are. You can drop off this exhaust mounting and see whether that gives you a little bit of movement in the exhaust. So I'll have a go at that as well. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Right, a little bit of perseverance, and it is out. Last time that took me hours and hours and hours and hours, and I was not a happy bunny. This time, Just changing the technique a bit. I mean, it's just so rusty, isn't it? Good old Land Rovers. Now for the slightly easier part of reassembly. Right, so here we have the offending nut. You go, just cut a chunk out of it, and it gave it enough to free up the bolt. See, the bolt's still in there, but that'll come out easily now, or more easily than it would. I'm just gonna drop out all the bolts, and the arm will hopefully come out. And if we detach this stabilizer bar, it's easy to wiggle around, and it should just drop out nicely. Oh. I need a break now. And there we go, we're down to the final bolt. Let's see if we can get this fella out. Hallelujah. Right, so this is the rear bush. I mean, it's just very, very corroded. So you can see it's badly corroded in there. And then just the general condition of it. I mean, it is 17 years old, so I mean, bushes haven't specifically gone, but you know, it's going to start causing problems, isn't it, with the amount of corrosion. So there you go. The part I've got is from Advanced Factors, which is a UK based company, and it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't a genuine one. The genuine ones now are crazy expensive, and because it's not a geometry component, I've decided to replace it with a non Land Rover, so an OEM equivalent. The last one on the other side, I had to put it in. I had a bit of problem in here with this distance here with the rose joint at the bottom. For some reason it just would not go in, so I had to sort of feather off the edges a bit, and it slid in, which wasn't ideal because obviously you're taking off the coating, but it's going to last probably longer than the life of the car now, regardless of whether it goes a bit rusty on the other side. And you know, if you've got to get a component back in, you've got to You've got to get it back in.